want to raise that I've written about recently are lunch times. We're taking a little look and a little review about what happens here in the dining hall, the gym, and also in the playground, looking at the amounts of time people have for things and just reviewing and taking stock of that. Come this way, we'll walk and talk at the same time. So, the gym here is filled with 3 different sittings. Now we're looking to see if we can alter that a little bit and get some of the children a bit more time to sit and eat and talk. They enjoy doing that, and we want to see if we can do that. Now head this way and we'll have a look outside and we'll talk about some little ideas and plans that we've got there. So now that we're outside after we've left the gym, we're here at the sign for our different play zones. We're reviewing which play zones we've got, how they work, how long they need to be in use for, whether some have lived their time and we need to look at others. And again, it's that balance of time to eat and time to play. So we're just taking stock of where we are with that, although you can't see, just in my eye line, just beyond the camera, we've got our cricket pavilion and our football stadium. I'm desperate to make more and more lunchtime use of that grass, but when we have the sort of February that we have with record rainfall, it's quite difficult to do. But I am again working on ideas about how we can get those zones more and more in play, with the key being to keep the children busy, active, keep numbers down in the playground, but get that crucial social time for them, just as I've written about in recent weekly news. In other news items, I mentioned that during our recent monitoring of teaching and learning, I had a little look at our horseshoe layout and trying to get those adult to children ratios down even more. We haven't got lots and lots of money, but we try and build up a little bit of a reserve so we can deploy to help progress where possible. Now, as a result of that monitoring, we identified some of those remaining reserves to lower the adult-child ratio, so that in rooms such as this, and I'm in the Year 3 classroom at the moment, you'll see these horseshoe tables that we use, and they're built within a bigger horseshoe setting. We call it the double horseshoe style of learning. It means that more adults can get directly to work with more children. Quite a unique setting in our school, but we like to talk about all the children being on the front row and getting a lower ratio and therefore more time to support their starting point. And that's something that we've invested in recently and have brought in a range of additional adults to help us do that. Problem is, it's hard to sustain, and we have a model that we know works. Our progress measures are very good. What I need now is a budget from the government that shows they're supporting that vital need. So now a really important message. I made a film a few months ago about attendance, and we've got items on our website and newsletters talking about attendance concerns, and sadly that hasn't gone away despite all of that. Nationally, there are major issues around school attendance. It's falling everywhere, and it's hard to fathom and hard to realise attitudes to school attendance should be a major priority for everyone, but nationally head teachers are saying what's going on, something has to change. In our situation, our figures remain above all national comparisons, which is great, but in real terms those national figures, they aren't worth an awful lot because they're falling rapidly, and ours are falling as well. And one particular area that concerns me is what we call persistent absence. Now, the government has determined that persistent absence is determined by any absence over a period of time which is less than 90%. They determine that is when absence is of the greatest and most severe concern. People can argue right or wrong with that. I do think the government are right in many ways. The issue that I have is that they then expect people like me to fire every bullet for them. So it's quite easy for people in power to say, this shouldn't happen, change this, do something about that. But as head teacher of school, I've got to try and keep some working relationship with those families that have children that are persistently absent, but by the same token, try and hold them to account and say, you've got to improve the attendance. You have to, and it's got to improve rapidly. It is a huge concern. There's no doubt about that at all. If I break it down in simple terms, children who have less than 90% attendance are going to miss more than an academic year in their child's education. So if we assume that there are 11 years, plus of course you've got your reception year, it works out just over an academic year when you break the days down. So if you said to your child, you're going to miss a whole school year during your school life, you say, well, goodness me, that can't be right. That's wrong. What's going to be done about it? During the COVID closures, there was get the schools open, get the children back in, get the children back in. But yet we have families in our school and across the whole country who don't seem to have that priority. The children that are 90% or less on attendance are missing a whole school year in their educational life. That is just, that's really, 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 really poor and worrying. And I think rightly something's got to be done about that. And we've got to try and find a measure between giving a nudge, but being strong. Yes, understanding at times why certain things happen, but trying to make that change. And we have to do that. And the government requires us to do that. It's not as though I can just sit here and be really nice and say nothing and just let things wander. Our persistent absence figures are getting worse all the time. They've doubled since schools reopened after the second COVID closures. And unfortunately, it's a recurring pattern with recurring families. So we have to act. And unfortunately, in the last few days, we've been talking about sending correspondence out via our monitoring, and we've done that in the last few days, and we've heightened our monitoring processes simply because we have to do something. For a range of reasons, we can't do nothing. I'll just give you one more example. At the moment, those children who are persistently absent are missing at least one, if not two lessons out of every 10 in a sequence of learning. Now, we plan our English and maths often on a 10-day cycle or in 10-day batches. That means those children are missing at least one or two of those vital 10 sessions. And the sessions are linked together. So if you miss two chinks in that piece of armour, you're going to be all at sea. And that's what the teachers find when the children return. They're missing that link. You've got 5 parts in a story and they're missing 1 or 2 bits. They can't link their learning together. If you're building a session on complex sentences, then applying it. If they've missed the practice session, they won't apply it effectively. The children's lesson is all at sea when they miss a sequence. Now, if a child is off ill, they're generally off ill for a number of days and then they're back. That's the general sequence, that's the way it is. But those who are persistently absent are missing days all of the time. They're breaking their learning chain all of the time. And alongside the stat I gave you about missing a whole academic year, I'm sure that's not what you would want for your child. And that's what the government are talking about, and that's what we're trying to deal with. And it's a tough situation for head teachers because I will now take some stick about sending out correspondence. But what do I do? Nothing is changing, nobody's taking it that seriously, and it's not getting any better. So, as we put out on website correspondence, previous films, in writing, we've now begun to take some further action, some further steps on to reduce the persistent absence rates, but above all else to tell families we've got to turn it around. Attendance is an issue nationally and it's a worry here as well. Overall the figures are okay, but they're going downhill and that has to stop and we have to turn that around. I understand it's a difficult one, I'll take a bit of stick, but I've got to do the right thing here. So anyway, harsh message over. Hopefully we'll see more positive attendance news in the days, weeks and months ahead.